We've lost the rule of reason. And I argued in the Prosecutors Association, as did other prosecutors, believe it or not, counterintuitively, stop the mandatory sentencing. What's the problem? When we go to politicians and we say, you guys are on this tough on crime thing, here's the people that are getting caught in this system that are going to state prison that should not be going there. Please change the law. The legislators don't want to be seen as soft on crime, so the carnage continues.
What is the impact on law enforcement? And I want you to speak as a prosecutor. Like, what is the impact? Let's say it is legalized.
Right.
What's that impact, and what are the cops going to have to deal with, the prosecutors, et cetera? How will this change New Jersey? Because I think it's going to be a significant change if it happens.
It comes down to the criminal justice issue. As the prosecutor who has been on all sides of this and a law enforcement supporter, my first trial was of a man who, and this is according to the cops who were doing a narcotic surveillance in Jersey City. He found a vial of crack on the ground. It was a drug area. He went into a store and bought a turkey for Thanksgiving. This is the version of the cops in the story.
So he found the vial, sold it,
and
got
he
the
sold
cash.
it. And Bill, what a lot of people don't know when they talk about disparity in sentencing between minority communities and the more affluent communities is that there's a 1,000-foot and now a 500-foot law, which means if you deal narcotics or sell narcotics within 1,000 feet of a school or 500 foot of a museum or a park, it is a mandatory state prison sentence. In this case, because it was within 1,000 feet of a school, it was a 3-year period of parole ineligibility up to 5 years for that particular crime of selling the vial in order to buy the turkey.
So this was a man not with a drug history.
Absolutely.
Not
in fact, he was
ongoing crack dealer, just a guy trying to make some cash
and try to help his
turkey.
family and buy a turkey. And the cops were actually like, oh my God, this case is going to trial. It was my first trial as a prosecutor. Understand, in Jersey City, Camden, Newark, Trenton, most areas are within 1,000 feet of a school or 500 foot of a park or museum. So what happened was we tried the case, and there we were at sentencing. He was convicted. It was a no-brainer on that end. Going to jail to 3 to 5 years mandatory in state prison. I almost left being a prosecutor because when I was standing in that sentencing with the wife crying and the kids crying, I mean, he committed a crime, but we hit a fly with a sledgehammer with that law. And that's why we stacked people like cordwood, in my opinion, in state prison that were from the lower socioeconomic areas. It was really disgusting.
So this really speaks to the disparity of why there are so many young black and Hispanic men that are serving mandatory sentences versus the white guy that does the same thing. Because if he does it in Ridgewood, he's not as close to a school.
I became the prosecutor.
Same crime, different area.
I became the prosecutor. I left Hudson County and I became the prosecutor in Morris County. Completely different socioeconomic background. The very same crime that would be committed in Mendham or Chester or one of the more affluent areas is not within 1,000 feet of a school, would be given a slap on the wrist, probably probation or pretrial intervention.
But why hasn't there been a legislator that has proposed changing the 1,000-foot rule, changing the 500-foot rule?
That's a great question. When we made that a mandatory sentence, this is back in 1986, I think it was, then we went with official misconduct, which it sounds great to the public until you see the way it's actually happening in the courtrooms with minor offenses, made that a 5-year period of parole ineligibility. Gun offenses. Now we have people who aren't criminals who may accidentally not know our gun laws. A truck driver driving through from Pennsylvania to New Jersey made that a mandatory sentence. What's happening?
Contractors at Sandy getting in trouble for guns in their car. They're coming up from North Carolina.
Absolutely. We've lost the rule of reason. And I argued in the Prosecutors Association, as did other prosecutors, believe it or not, counterintuitively, stop the mandatory sentencing. What's the problem? When we go to politicians and we say, you guys are on this tough on crime thing, here's the people that are getting caught in this system that are going to state prison that should not be going there. Please change the law. The legislators don't want to be seen as soft on crime, so the carnage continues.
Well, that's an interesting point. I mean, the idea of being soft on crime doesn't mean you put somebody away who's buying a Thanksgiving turkey for his kids for 5 years. I mean, that to me is just common sense. And in your opinion, I mean, just looking at it from a political perspective, both parties, have we lost our way?
Yes.
In the conversation?
Yes. Look, my dad's 86 years old. He's a trial attorney, and he's still practicing law. I came up with an understanding of people, Democrats and Republicans. They fought like hell to get into office, but when they got in there, in my opinion, they believed far greater an idea of coming together for good policy that made sense. It wasn't perfect, but I think it was better than the vapid political culture that we have right now. And you were able to have sensible policy. And when you were a prosecutor with the tremendous power and discretion you have to put people in jail or not, you need to temper that power with mercy, compassion, and with the rule of reason. And that does not mean every single person has to go to jail. In fact, it means quite the opposite of that.
And mandatory sentencing ties your hands.
Absolutely.
Even as a prosecutor.
Listen,
and a judge. You lose your ability.
I'm going to tell you something. There was a judge, and it was another case that I had, which was a pointing of a firearm at somebody. That's not a good thing. I get it. You shouldn't do that. But when the facts were explained as to the reason that this altercation occurred, which was him defending his children who were almost run over by gang members, and after a number of calls to the police department, nobody did it. He pulled the gun out. He threatened the guy. Not a good thing. But again, a man who worked 2 jobs, never been in trouble before, was getting no response from the police. When he went to state prison for 18 mandatory months, because that is what the law, me and the judge sat there in chambers. I was the head prosecutor, he was the head judge, and we just shook our heads, and he was like, this justice system has completely fallen apart, and I don't disagree with him, but there was nothing we could do.
So it's the legislature that has to act.
They need to let prosecutors
So maybe this is something the new governor will take up.
You need to pick excellent prosecutors. You need to pick people who know this business inside and out. And I mean on both sides of the equation. And then you have to let those people make the discretionary decisions that need to be done, as opposed to tying their hands with this mandatory sentencing.